I'm going to play some audio here for you. This is some of the most frightening audio I've ever heard. This audio we're going to play for you was taken by a Canadian couple up on the Canadian border. And what you're going to hear is the voice of the couple, and then you're going to hear the voice of the United States Border Security, Border Patrol. I don't want these people representing me. I don't know what kind of ego game they're playing, but I don't want them. I don't want them to represent me. They don't represent me or the country that I stand for. Listen, as a guy who has crossed the Canadian border a million times, listen to what our border guards now, how they're treating people in Canada.
Hi.
You're so close.
Hi.
Of what country are you citizens?
Which country am I citizens? Canada.
Well, of what country are both of you citizens is what I was asking.
Both of us are from Canada.
How do you two know each other?
We're married.
Where are you going today?
Fashion Outlet Mall.
For what?
For shopping.
Where at?
Where in, what is it? What's the address?
Niagara Falls.
Niagara Falls.
Which stores?
I don't know.
You believe that question? Which stores? I've got to tell the Border Patrol which store I'm going to go to when I go to a mall in America?
Now, let's play fair with the Border Patrol. The Border Patrol say, I thought there was something suspicious. I was just trying to engage them in conversation. You go on a flight to Israel, they'll say to you all kinds of questions. They'll
I guess
ask
if
you,
there's reason to be suspicious, but do we know anything
they're
about
engaging you in conversation. You go on to a flight
Do they
for
do
El
this
Al.
to everybody coming across
Jeffy?
the border?
Jeffy?
Yes.
You've been on
in that conversation and
in
look
El Al.
for discrepancies.
And that is the way that El Al does it. And El Al,
Well, I know, but I don't think we treat Canadians coming across the border this way as
you
a
have to
rule.
treat
Do we?
everybody. They treated me like that. El Al treated me like that. Now, they didn't treat me, I will say, they did not treat me like what you're about to hear. They did not treat me in the way that these guys, I think, these guys are doing it with an attitude.
Did you hear, though, his first response? The guy in the car seems annoyed initially. Now, before anything happens, he seems annoyed and he's kind of being short with him. Is there a reason? Like, what led up to this moment is what my question would be. Do you have any idea in the story?
I don't.
No.
Like, it wasn't one of those
know.
things where they were being a wise ass. They pulled him aside, and then they said,
Well, it sounds like this is the first contact he had with him was what citizens.
But you're taping immediately, and I think this comes from, when you're living up at the border. I used to live up by the border in Washington State, and you come across that border all the time. I mean, we never even had gates. I mean, we had the Peace Arch where I was from, and you barely even had to slow down.
Yeah, I don't
across the
remember
border.
when we crossed from Montana to Canada. I don't remember.
Yeah, and
any kind of impediment.
When I started, back in the 70s and 80s, we started to have some, but it was just a quick question, and they were always polite. They were always polite on both sides. We're good friends.
And that was a different time. We weren't necessarily looking for
a terrorist.
Yeah.
However, Jeffy, was anyone at El Al rude to you?
No.
Did anybody have an attitude?
No, not really. No,
but did you ever give them an attitude? I mean, I know you're a horrible person, but my guess is you were polite. And
Let me tell you. This is how they have. This is how much suspicion they had. I show up at the airport. This is my first trip to Israel. I show up at the airport. My ticket had been purchased by my agent with cash 2 days before. This is a year after September 11th.
Beyond that, you're with Jeffy.
Yeah.
Which threw immediate suspicion on
So
him.
my agent purchased my ticket with cash 2 days before and said, Glenn, just go to the airport. There's going to be some people meeting you on the other side, and they'll pick you up and blah, blah, blah. I was so busy on something else, I didn't even really know. I get to the airport. My passport had just expired. I was living in Philadelphia. I had just come from someplace, maybe Texas. My passport had been issued in San Francisco the day before.
Because it was like a rushed
job.
Right.
We got rushed passports.
So I'm standing there in line, and he's like, where are you from? And I said, Philadelphia. He said, how did your passport why was your passport changed yesterday in San Francisco? I said, because I had to get it quickly. He said, okay, where are you staying? I said, I'm not really sure. What do you mean you're not really sure? You're going to Israel and you don't know where you're staying? I said, no, I don't. I've got some people meeting me the other end. Who are they? I'm not really sure.
Now, see, you're acting suspicious, and they're still treating you well.
No. I was asking their question. I was being and I wasn't acting suspicious.
No, I know, but those are suspicious answers.
Right, and they were very, very kind to me the whole time.
Yeah,
and they didn't know. This is before I was anybody.
This guy's just saying, yes, we're both citizens. Well, how do you know each other? She's my wife. We have sort of a relationship. Where are you going? What are you doing there? Well, of course, when you're going to a mall, you're going shopping. What the hell do you think I'm going to do at the mall?
Which stores are you going to?
What
I don't know what stores. I don't know the
point of a mall. They collect the stores so you can walk by and whimsically go into whatever you want.
Thinking I'd go to various stores.
You're going across the border. This is the way things are done.
Yeah.
Our border towns.
This is craziness.
When the dollar was huge, we would go up across to Canada and buy a bunch of stuff up in Canada.
Yeah.
And now that the border, now that the dollar is flipped, now the Canadians are coming down here and they're buying. I mean, that's what happens. Mm-hmm. You go and you buy and you come across the border and you border hop all the time. I would imagine that these guys started to record because they were like, they knew they had done this before over and over and over again. Listen to some more.
Does it matter? We haven't settled our
Use your keys, please.
My keys?
Yes, your keys right now. Your keys. 1022 to lane 1, 2 occupants. United States of America.
No, I understand, but
Okay, so if I ask you questions,
I'm
I
answering.
don't expect to get responses like does it matter. I expect to get the responses to the questions.
You asked me which store I'm going to.
Yeah, if you're.
I don't know. I don't know what store I'm going to.
Be quiet. Get out of the vehicle.
Okay.
Get out of the vehicle.
Because he doesn't know what store he's going to.
No.
No, leave them all in the car. Leave those headphones in the car.
And seriously, has he been unreasonable? He was a little irritated. I would have been too. I would have been extremely irritated. What stores are you going to? I don't know. What an asinine question. What stores? And now you're taking my keys and making me get out of the car.
I just don't like this. I don't like
That's
the
horrendous.
attitude here.
I don't
like the attitude. I don't like the attitude of the driver, but I also don't like the attitude. I mean, this guy represents you.
Yeah.
And I don't care how bad of a day you've had. But when somebody comes across the border and if they're rude to you, say, "Sir, I'm really sorry. I don't mean to be rude to you, but I have to know we're trying to find."
I can relate to the attitude of the driver, though.
Oh, I can
you
too.
not?
I can too. And it's only going to get worse because the government is becoming more and more out of control.
Yeah.
And so when these guys start to question you imagine what the attitude is going to be towards an IRS agent now?
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine?
Oh, yeah.
You imagine what the attitude is going to be. You go ahead and audit me this year. Do you think my attorneys are not going to be in your face every second they're at the table? Mm-hmm. Because you don't deserve anything else. You have proven yourself to be bad guys. Now, I'm not saying that the Border Patrol, by any stretch of the imagination, are bad guys. They're not the bad guys. But this is, what is this, customs and whatever? I mean, are you good guys? I don't even know.
Doesn't sound like it.
I don't even know.
Okay.
So now they have to go.
For what reason?
Take a seat.
Listen
For
to that.
what
Take a
reason?
seat.
Take a seat.
Ridiculous.
Listen to that.
I said, why do I have to sit down? Take a seat. Why do I have to sit down? Take a seat.
Okay.
Sure.
1 Elm Drive in Mississauga.
Where are you trying to go today?
We're trying to go to the Fashion Outlet Mall.
Now
Niagara Falls.
here's a guy who
I'm
seems.
not sure. He asked me, the question that I was asked was, which
Here's a guy
store
who's
am I
inside
going
who
to?
seems much more reasonable. Who's like, okay, where are you going today? All right, go ahead.
I don't know. My wife and I are just going to walk around the mall. Okay. And I was told to come and sit down. I asked, what's the reason? He just said, he kept yelling, this gentleman right here kept yelling, sit down, sit down, sit down. So he wouldn't give me a reason.
Well, if the officer tells you to do something,
Well, I need to know why.
hold on a second. Okay? You're a Canadian citizen.
Yes, I am. But I'm not going to obey orders if I don't understand the reason for them.
If the officer tells you to come inside and sit down, you come inside and sit down.
Uh-huh. But do you understand where I'm coming from? Like, why?
Because we're gonna interview you.
Okay.
We're gonna.
On what ground? Like, what's...
We don't need any grounds.
Well, that's
See,
ridiculous.
this is why
They don't need any
this
grounds?
is why I wanted to play this, because up until this, it's he said, she said. You can look at it from either side, but we don't need any grounds.
He just said there weren't any grounds.
Yeah.
They don't need any.
We don't need any grounds.
That's not
I'm sorry.
not the case.
I'm sorry. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. Jeffy, you say no?
Well, probably not in today's world. I mean, they have, you're at the border, you're crossing. They're going to be able to bring you in and question you
That's bull
over
crap.
anything.
That's bull crap.
If you're
That's
coming into
chilling.
our country, I want you treated with respect. If you're coming into our country and you're a jerk about it, I believe the customs agents can come in and say, you know, I'm sorry, you guys are coming in. We don't need anything because you're not an American citizen. I'm not happy about it, but give them the benefit of the doubt. Our Canadian members, our Canadian friends, they're practically American. Our Canadian friends are going to be treated like this. And do they treat Americans like that? If I come over and I'm an American citizen and I have my passport, I don't need anything to ask you to stand up. The hell you don't.
Yeah, do we want to be treated that way on the way into Canada?
Do we want to be treated?
Don't.
Do we want to be treated by that by our own people coming back into our own country?
No.
No. You don't treat people like that.
The TSA does it all the time, though, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And there is a big difference between the way the TSA handles things. I mean, you want to talk about a cavity search. You go to El Al Airlines and you try to fly into Israel and you don't know anything. You want to talk about a cavity search, but they treat you with respect. They treat you with respect. Why? Because it's a it's a private group that is doing it. The company will go out of business if they don't treat people with respect and if they don't catch the bad guys. You start blowing up planes, well, they go out of business. You start driving off all your customers, you go out of business. So they have to find the right way. The TSA and the United States government, they don't give a flying crap. They'll treat you any way they want to because they can. There's no rules for them. That's wrong. We all have to play by it is equal justice under the law. Equal justice. That means you, officer, and me. We both play by the same rules.